Let's go.
Good morning, and welcome to the 2017 National Charter School Conference, or to the 17th Annual National Charter Schools Conference in our hometown of Washington, D.C. As always, this conference wouldn't be possible without the generous support of our lead sponsors. So at this moment, I want to take a minute to thank the Walton Family Foundation for being our diamond sponsor this year. And a very special thank you to Angela Christoph, Amelia Moore, and Patty Guidetti, our small but dedicated conference team, for delivering yet another great conference this year. Now, we love to bring this conference to DC every 4 years because it gives you an opportunity to show what your schools are all about to members of Congress and to the administration. I personally love to have this conference in DC because this is where I got my start in the movement. And this year, I happen to also have my family with me. You all have met my mom in the past, but my father, my brother, and my husband are with us today as well. So just no pressure here. But as I said, I got my start in this movement in Washington, D.C. Friends and school choice pioneers like Virginia Walden Ford, Donald Hentz, and Iracema Salcido taught me how a great school can change a child's life. They showed me the meaning of parental choice. They showed me how important it was for community leaders and teachers to take control of their schools. They showed me how a good charter school could reimagine public education, from one-size-fits-all to schools that meet students where they are. Today, after more than 2 decades of progress, Washington, D.C. has one of the most robust charter school movements in the country. D.C. has a strong charter school law, and it also has a great charter school authorizer. I think Scott Pearson is with us. Scott, stand up so that we can recognize you. As a result, the whole city has benefited from an education renaissance that has improved public education for students in both public, charter, and in district schools. But that's not enough, of course, to guarantee a strong movement. DC also has all of these great leaders and teachers who are in the room with us today. So I want to ask all the DC leaders to please stand up so we can see where you are and find you later on. So the DC charter school leaders and teachers in the house. There you go. These leaders and teachers can rely on family support groups like PAVE, DC School Reform Now, and the Flamboyant Foundation, and they can also rely on great advocacy partners like Democrats for Education Reform, the DC Association of Chartered Public Schools, and Focus. In fact, Mike Peabody, the DC pioneer who really launched the charter school movement in this city, is going to be inducted into the Charter School Hall of Fame later this week. He will be joined. He will be joined by Caprice Young, who has meant so much to the growth of the charter school movement in California and throughout the country, and by Greg Richmond, the head of the National Association of Charter School Authorizers. Greg has been a true champion of quality in our movement. Our Hall of Famers recognized very early on how a good charter school can revolutionize public education. They planted the seeds of innovation and cultivated a movement that's transforming students' lives every day. Our mission, this mission, is to continue to find new ways to deepen our roots and to expand our reach. Each year, the National Alliance celebrates the students who are graduating from charter schools. We call it 30 Days of Grad, and if you ever need some extra inspiration, I encourage you to go to our website and take a look at some of the stories. One of the graduates that we featured this year is Alfonso Martinez. I think Alfonso is with us today. Alfonso, if you're in the room, there you are. There you go. So Alfonso came to the US at the age of 17 and was never able to finish high school. After more than a decade of trying to find a meaningful job, he finally enrolled at the Carlos Rosario International Public Charter School here in DC. At age 31, he became a high school graduate. It's the beginning of a new and better life. Or as Alfonso says, I love my high school diploma, and it's incredible how achieving that dream helps me to continue dreaming. Charter schools never give up on students, no matter their age, no matter their challenges. We see the potential and the brilliance in every child. Our movement doesn't believe in letting students fall through the cracks, and that's what makes us strong. In places like Nashville, Los Angeles, and Philadelphia, charter schools like LEAD, Green Dot, and Mastery are taking public schools where students were languishing and turning them around. Our movement is rooted in the idea that parents deserve a choice when they select a public school for their child. Parents know what's best for their kids, and they choose charter schools to help their children reach their unique potential. Today, more than 3 million students across the country are attending 6,900 charter schools that are benefiting from public school choice. Earlier this year, Kentucky became the 44th state to enact a charter school law. And for the first time, yes. And for the first time, the National Teacher of the Year, Sydney Chafee, is a charter school teacher. Sydney teaches at the Codman Academy near Boston. When US News and World Report and the Washington Post published their list of best and most challenging high schools, charter schools were the top 6 in the top 10 list for US News and 9 of the top 10 in the Washington Post. In fact, Tom Torkelson from IDEA, who's going to be with us in a few minutes, had 5 of the top 10 best, most challenging high schools in the Washington Post listing. We also won 2 major election victories last year, or this past month, it wasn't last year, in Los Angeles. And now, yes, the LA Unified School District, the second largest school district in America, has a school board that is representing all of the public school students in Los Angeles, regardless of the type of school that they are attending. And as a longtime fan, I was thrilled when I heard that P. Diddy was opening a charter school in Harlem last year. Diddy's partner, Dr. Steve Perry, is going to be with us in just a few minutes. Our movement has had an amazing run at success, and you deserve a big round of applause for making this happen. Please thank yourselves. Our job here at the National Alliance is to make sure that you get recognized and to make sure that our movement has the policy support that you need in order to grow with quality. And we're working tirelessly every day to make sure that you have the resources that you need to deliver on the promise of the charter school movement. In state capitals, where charter policy is made, we are fighting for equal funding, because public school students in charter schools deserve every bit as much funding as public school students in district schools. In fact, we saw a big victory in Colorado just this last month when the leaders in the state legislature passed a law that requires that local revenue proceeds be shared equally between charter and district school students. And we're fighting for charter school quality because we should always be offering a better choice. We're also working very hard right here in our home base of Washington, D.C. to make sure that your voice and your perspective are delivered to the members who represent you in Congress. to the administration and at the US Department of Education. Now, I know it feels like kind of a strange time in national politics these days, and maybe even a scary time for some. But let me tackle the big elephant in the room: Donald Trump. Donald Trump is very different from a lot of other presidents in recent memory, but he has at least one thing in common with other presidents. He supports charter schools. President Trump has proposed a 50% increase in funding in the charter school program. That's money that our movement can use to grow more schools and to open more opportunities for students to access a better education. But we don't have that money yet. Congress still has to approve it. So let's get real about the opportunities and the challenges on the horizon for us. For more than 25 years, charter schools have drawn support from Democrats and Republicans. But now, some Democrats are skittish. The president has given a big hug to charter schools, while at the same time embracing other priorities and offering some major cuts in domestic spending. Democrats are nervous about being associated with anything connected to Donald Trump. And Republicans have been waiting for a chance to reduce the federal role in education and, in some cases, to also promote other forms of school choice that benefit private schools. Donald Trump supports those efforts too. So some Republicans may put charter schools on the back burner while they advocate for these other reforms. Where does that leave us? If Democrats are afraid of ever saying yes to Donald Trump, and Republicans don't think that charter schools should be a priority, we could be left out when the big funding decisions are made up here in Congress. We cannot let that happen. We cannot let political turmoil determine our movement's progress. All of us in this room, and all of us listening to this speech, need to understand that accepting the president's agenda on charter schools doesn't connect us to his whole agenda. Many people who supported charter schools didn't support the race to the top federal program. Many people who supported charter schools did not support the No Child Left Behind Act, but they did appreciate the support of Presidents Barack Obama and George W. Bush. We can disagree with President Trump and disagree loudly when we believe that it's the right thing to do, but to ignore the impact of a big increase in funding at the federal level would be politically irresponsible. It would put the interest of adults and political activists ahead of the interests and the needs of our students. At the same time, we need Republicans to understand that charter schools are the biggest and most effective mechanism to turn control back to local school districts and to parents. There's always going to be more support for public school choice as opposed to private school choice. And charter schools are delivering on the promise of school choice every day already, right now, in 44 states across America. If you really want to give students a choice in education right here, right now, you need to support charter schools. That's the message that we are sending to members of Congress and to the administration. And we're going to keep delivering it to anyone who will listen, and even to some people who may not want to listen, because the one thing you cannot be these days in Washington is silent. And we need you to join us in raising your voices. Everybody is pretty cynical about DC these days, but it's a fact, now more than ever before, that members of Congress listen to their constituents. When you demand public school choice, they will listen. When you demand that funding for public schools be safeguarded, they will listen. When you demand that Washington protects the rights, the civil rights and liberties of your students, they will listen. So this is your time to speak up. We have a huge opportunity before us to increase funding for our movement, but if you don't speak up and express your views now, we may never have as good a chance to have an impact at the national level. Democrats and Republicans need to hear from you that your schools matter. They need to hear how your schools are changing lives. You're not just talking about change. You're making change happen in your schools every single day. We need this message to resonate across the country because we face challenges everywhere. In Massachusetts, last year, we lost a major referendum that would have lifted the cap on charter schools in some of our most effective charter schools in the city of Boston. Even though, again, the charter schools in Massachusetts are some of the best in our country. The mayor of New York City is fiercely an opponent of charter schools, again, in a city that has some of the best charter schools in the country. Lawsuits challenging the validity of charter schools are bubbling up every day. And as you saw just last year, the NAACP called for a nationwide moratorium on the growth of charter schools, despite the overwhelming evidence that African American students benefit from charter schools. Now, we can give policymakers all the reports and the data because they all show that our schools are doing great and our students are achieving, graduating, going to college and whatnot. But that information, we've discovered, only goes so far. We cannot win this argument by showing them stuff like this. I don't even know what we've put up there right now. We need to start showing more things like this, these types of pictures. So my request to you is to seize this moment. Grab the opportunity that's in front of us and get involved. You can start right now by getting on your phones and texting charters to 52886. By doing that, you'll send a message to Congress to safeguard and expand funding for public schools, including charter schools. But don't stop there. Keep speaking up. Anybody who wants your vote should have to earn it. Tell them they can earn it by supporting charter schools. And then ask all of your friends and your relatives and your administrators and your teachers to do the same. Get on social media if you're not on it right now. When you hear someone say something about charter schools that is not correct, correct them. As President Obama used to say, we can disagree without being disagreeable. We can rise above the cynicism and the name-calling that makes people angry. We can find and support champions from both sides of the aisle who know that our schools are making a difference. And when people ask why we're so committed and excited about this cause, we can show them the millions of smiling faces of students who love their schools. Thank you so much for being with us today at this pivotal time to show Congress what our schools are about and to celebrate these schools and our students. We have a great program for you over the next 3 days. Steve Perry will be with us in just a minute. So as they say on Saturday Night Live, stick around. We'll be right back.